Welcome back to America Decides. President-elect Trump says he wants the next Senate Republican leader, the majority leader, to allow what we've discussed earlier called recess appointments. This would allow the White House to temporarily bypass confirmation votes for high-level appointments when the Senate is out of session. And in a post on social media, Trump said, quote, "Sometimes the votes can take 2 years or more. This is what they did 4 years ago, and we cannot let it happen again. We need positions filled immediately." Former Deputy Assistant Attorney General Tom Dupree joins us now. Tom, thanks for being here. Help us step back, Tom. Recess appointments, the history of them on a legal and political level.
Oh, boy. Well, recess appointment power is enshrined in our Constitution. Typically, the Constitution requires that the United States Senate confirm high-level federal officials, cabinet officials, federal judges, and the like. But it also says that when the Senate is in recess, basically when the senators are not in session, when they've all dispersed to their home states, the president can appoint officials through a recess appointment, which does not require Senate confirmation. So historically, this has been something that presidents will use, typically when they suspect that the Senate will not confirm the nominee they'd like to put in the job. So they wait until the senators go out of town and bam, recess appointment. It's a little peculiar that Trump is pushing so hard to eliminate any possibility that he couldn't make recess appointments, because I don't suspect he would be encountering that much difficulty with a Republican-controlled Senate confirming his nominees.
What are the legal concerns, if any, on this front?
Well, the legal concern would simply be that the president would use this as an opportunity to bypass the normal constitutional process for confirming officials. In other words, the founders wanted to ensure that there was a senatorial check on high-level appointments, that the United States senators would evaluate the qualifications of nominees and only approve those who are deemed worthy. A recess appointment enables a president to circumvent that process. So that would be the concern, that if a president were to use this power indiscriminately, in other words, not for legitimate reasons, such as because they actually need someone to fill this spot during a time of a national security crisis, for example, but simply because they wanted to circumvent the Senate's approval process, that would be a legal concern.
The Justice Department. Everybody who's down at Mar-a-Lago is telling me all eyes are on who's picked for Attorney General. But not only who's picked for Attorney General, who's picked for Deputy Attorney General, who's picked to run the criminal division. What are you hearing from your sources and friends in the legal community about concerns they might have, who they believe might be the ultimate pick, and why that matters?
Right. Well, it certainly matters. No question about that. And I think the chatter about looking at maybe the slightly not top position, but the deputy positions is very well placed. Those are critically important jobs, because those are the people who will be doing things like signing off and approving prosecutions. Those will be the ones appearing in the courtrooms of the United States on behalf of the president to defend his policies. Don't want to say the Attorney General is a figurehead. He's obviously not. But there's only so much an Attorney General can do, and the day-to-day work of the Justice Department is often carried out by these slightly lower-level officials. So I think attention is properly paid to who's filling those slots. They're vitally important.
In terms of the independence of the Justice Department, what are you watching?
Well, you want to make sure that the president is choosing people who, yes, we know that he likes people who are loyal to him, but you also want people who are loyal to the rule of law and who will faithfully execute the laws of the United States and will be faithful to the Constitution. And occasionally that may mean pushing back against what the president wants. And so ideally, the president will choose people in whom, number one, he has confidence, number two, who are committed to his agenda, but three, who will also give him their honest, independent judgment about what the law requires.
Beyond DOJ, as you watch the nomination announcement for EPA, you watch it for UN, as a lawyer, as someone who's been inside the federal government, what are you paying attention to? What can you help us understand through your prism? Sure.
Well, you're getting a sense of what sort of qualities and attributes the president is valuing as he assembles his second-term cabinet. One thing we've seen is that he likes office holders, either current or former, people he's chosen, New York congressmen and the like.
And White House counsel is going to matter a lot.
So White House counsel will matter, too. So the president wants people, I think, number one, that he actually knows personally. In other words, he wants to have a personal stamp of approval, someone that he knows, someone that he trusts, rather than someone who might be recommended to him as a good person by his advisors. So he values loyalty, he values experience, and we'll see. There's certainly a lot more slots to be filled, and I'm sure that there are a lot of people right now who are going down to Mar-a-Lago to lobby for these jobs, and we'll see what the president-elect decides.
And just very quickly here, the vetting process. How difficult is it, and how are lawyers involved?
Sure, it can be a difficult process. I mean, they typically, for cabinet positions, they will do a fairly deep dive into everything, into your finances, into your background, into your public statements, your records, if you have a criminal history, all of that. So it's a pretty exhaustive process. Lawyers play a crucial role in that. Lawyers will help sift through all this documentary evidence, maybe flag issues that even the nominee himself wasn't aware of. And of course, they can also help prepare the nominee for his or her confirmation process before the Senate, where you're sure to get questions, at least from the Democrats. That can be tough.
Well, whether it's a Republican or Democrat, transitions are always a good time for lawyers. Tom Dupree, thank you.